Now, as far as we know, this has never been aired in public before. It's an interview from 1983 with Roald Dahl, the world-famous author, who sat down with his 10-year-old great-niece at the time to share his marvellous mind over a cup of tea and a clunky old cassette recorder. His name is Roald, as you know. Her name was, and still is, Emma. It's over to Emma.
Mr. Dahl, your last two books were The BFG and Dirty Beasts. Are you working on anything else at the moment?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I've just finished a long one. It's taken me a year and a half to do. And having done a book about giants in the BFG, I thought that the other great fable in children's lives is witches. So I've just finished a long book about witches. And I'm not going to tell you what's in it, because you have to wait till you read it.
Do you write for children because you like them, or for money?
It's both, actually. I don't think... Samuel Johnson said that no writer ever writes for anything but money. And a lot of writers pretend they don't. But of course you write for money, because just the same as a man goes to the office to make money. It's a job. But I do actually. I like children very much. And I don't think anyone who hates children is able to write for children.
Mr. Dahl, did you write Charlie and the Chocolate Factory because you like chocolates? Do you really like them? Could you live without them?
No, I really do like them. I adore them. I have a bit of chocolate after, not every meal, because I don't have it after breakfast, but I have a bit of chocolate always after lunch and after supper. I adore it. I couldn't do without it. You know, I know it's very bad for you. And by the way, not many children know this. You know, do you know when all the great chocolate bars that you eat were invented? The Dairy Milk Flake, for instance, 1921. The Aero, 1930. Mars Bar, 1932. Smarties, 1937. All the great chocolates you eat now, today, the great chocolate bars were invented mostly before your mothers were born, you know. It's extraordinary. And children should learn these dates in school far ahead of learning the kings and queens of England. I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all, does it, knowing those? It's to know when the Malteser was invented, 1934. It was invented by Mr. Mars 2 years after the Mars Bar. And he took a small pellet of malted milk-flavoured dough, and he exploded in a vacuum and came up with a Malteser. And he made the mistake of calling them energy balls, first of all, and he had to change the word to the Malteser.
What was the most frightening moment you had as a child?
I think the most frightening moment I had was when I was about your age. I went into something called the harness room at the bottom of the garden. I was making a bow and arrow out of a long bamboo and a bit of string. And the string was too long, and I wanted to cut it to the right length. I didn't have a knife, but hanging on the wall, there was an axe or chopper. So I put the string on the bench and held it just where I wanted to cut it. And like a silly ass, I raised the axe above my head and went chop, and it took the whole of the end of my finger off. And I ran out of the harness room with the end was just dangling on by a bit of skin, and I met my brother outside, and he grabbed hold of my finger and ran me down to the house. And then my mother took us to the doctor, and he cut it off, and that finger's always been shorter than the other. Miss Pearl, what school do you go to?
The Monks Risborough Church of England Combined School.
Where is that?
It's on the Aylesbury Road near Prince's Risborough in Buckingham.
And how many children are there in that school?
About 150.
So equal number of boys and girls?
Just about.
Just about, yes. And what ages are they? How old are the smallest and how old are the biggest?
The smallest are 5 and the biggest are 12.
They go up a long way then. So how much longer have you got to stay in that school?
2 years.
2 years. That makes you 10 then, doesn't it? Yes. All right. Well, would you allow me to send my best greetings and wishes and love to all the children in the Monks Risborough Church of England School?
Thank you very much.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's time for us all to pack up and go home. It all belongs to Emma. Ask her. Good morning, Emma.
Good morning, Chris.
Goodness me, that was just so gorgeous. What was it like listening back to that again on the radio?
Oh, it's lovely. It's really heartwarming to hear it. Takes me straight back to the room.
We have got so much reaction to that now. We're receiving so much love for you and your interview with your great
lovely.
uncle. I mean, like, seriously, it's melting the text message machine, the amount of love we're getting. So how did that interview come about?
Well, it was just something Roald suggested just out of the blue. I don't know, maybe he was feeling bored one day, just thought it would be fun to do, and he just said, yeah, why don't you interview me? I said, yes, like, brilliant.
So were you round at his house hanging out? Is that what
I don't know. He came to our house to do the actual interview.
Right.
And you can hear our dog barking in the background.
I wondered whose dog it was. But what a lovely man. And the more I read about him over the years, and the more you sort of watch old interviews with him, the more you sort of fall in love with the guy. And he was your great uncle. What was it like to have Roald Dahl as your great uncle?
Oh, it was pretty awesome. You know, as you can imagine, it was just, he was an amazing adult to have around growing up as a kid. You know, he was just sort of larger than life in every way, really.
He was a big bloke anyway, wasn't he? He was very tall. He was in the war. He was a fighter pilot. He got shot down a few times. He was born in Wales, wasn't he, I think?
Yes, he was, yeah.
Born in Wales. But an extraordinary man. And did you visit that, his legendary, rather, shed where he did all his writing?
Yes, once or twice I was allowed a peek inside.
Isn't that interesting?
It was a very private place for him, but it was quite magical.
And even at such a tender age, when you say I was allowed in, that sort of tells us so much, just, you know, the fact that you've chosen that word. Did you realise how important a man and how important a place that was, even when you were just 10?
I had an inkling of it. I mean, obviously I didn't, nobody realised how sort of famous and legendary he would become. But yes, he was famous at the time, and yeah, I kind of was aware of that, as much as you can be at 10 years old.
Okay, and he was caring, he was loving. Tell us about how he helped you overcome your fear of water.
I was 5 years old and struggling with the whole swimming thing, and I found it quite scary. And he issued me a challenge. He said, if you can swim a width of my swimming pool, I'll buy you the biggest box of chocolates you've ever seen. And that was motivation enough, and I practiced and splashed and spluttered, and I got the box of chocolates.
How big was the box of chocolates?
It was huge.
Was it really? Oh, God! I love him more. With every moment of his life that's revealed. So there was a brilliant interview. That question about, you know, do you write because you like children or do you write for the money? That was so incisive.
Oh, it was a bit edgy, wasn't it? Crazy.
I mean, only somebody as close to him could probably have asked him that without being rude, or uncouth. But it was a fantastic question. What did you go on to do? Because you should have been a heavyweight interviewer. I don't know what is it you've gone on to do in your life.
No, I've worked in all sorts, but mainly in publishing, editing, and copywriting, etc.
All right, so the literary family tradition continues. God, I could talk to you all day, let alone to your great uncle. And apparently he dedicated the Twits to you, didn't he?
He did, yes. I was 7 when that came out, and that was just mind-blowingly amazing to have a book dedicated to me at the age of 7. And yeah, it's such a special honour.
And the fact that we've unearthed this interview, when I say we, I mean it's Jumping Jimmy Flash who works on the show, and also a chap who's very much involved with Roald Dahl Day, which is today. I think his name's Justin.
Yes.
And can you tell us about how we got to get our interview, please? Because I'm not quite sure.
Well, I mean, the cassette's been lying around in the back of a drawer for years, and then I found it again quite recently, and my lovely husband digitised it for me, and then I was in touch with Lissy, Roald's wife, and through the estate, I think it found its way to you.
Well, listen, thank you so much. Is it from your own childhood, not from your adulthood, but from your own childhood? That must be your most treasured possession, is it?
Yes, it probably is, yeah.
Okay, and you have many of his books signed from him to you as well, I understand.
Yes, he used to, on the publication of each book, he would go through a sort of solemn ceremony of signing the book and giving us a copy, so that was lovely, yeah.
All right, and he once went to your school in 1978 for a book signing. He was so generous with his time, but when you hear him talk, you feel like he sort of almost had more time than most people do. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, he was.
He appreciated time and life and detail, didn't he?
Absolutely.
You know, he really did smell the roses.
Yeah, he did, and he absolutely looked for, found magic in the most ordinary things, and he was just as you'd imagine him to be, I think, from his writing.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us today. That was really special, wasn't it? Thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you for having me.
Have a lovely day.
You too.
Bye-bye. Emma Pearl, Roald Dahl's great niece.